We are going to be going over how to identify common signs and symptoms of a hormonal imbalance in women, and a couple of steps that you can do once you've identified them. So welcome if you're new to my channel here. My name is Jen J. I am a women's hormone health coach and family nutritionist. I help empower women living with uncomfortable and debilitating hormonal symptoms, things like painful periods, mood swings, PMS, weight issues, and low energy, to help reclaim their lives and put their period problems to rest. And because I'm a mama, I know how hard it can be for many of my clients to do this with their families. So I have some very simple tools and resources that help the whole family eat healthier while mom is working on herself. So today we're going to be talking about the signs and symptoms that a woman may have that could indicate a hormonal imbalance. It's important to note that we're not going to be diagnosing today. Instead, I am going to be giving you some insight into some of the warning signs that your body could be giving you that actually tell you that you should be paying attention, right? You need to give your body some attention. And then I'll share with you two steps that you can take once you've identified that. So, there's a reason this is so near and dear to me. Like, there's a reason why this is what I specialize in my practice. And that is because this is my story and my journey. This was something that, preoccupied pretty much all of my time and my life for a very long time. And it started all the way back when I was about 14 years old. So I was having really extremely painful abdominal pain. It would leave me doubled over on the couch. I remember laying in the fetal position, kicking my legs and screaming for hours at a time. It was random and sporadic. It was awful. It was really uncomfortable. And when I was going to see my doctors, they really couldn't find anything wrong with me. So they would just send me home. It took several months before I started having a longer list of symptoms that I was going through. I was starting to deal with really painful acne breakouts, intense mood swings. My PMS was just all over the place. I had really irregular periods as well, and they became very, very painful. So because of my age and the somewhat normalcy of fluctuating hormones during that time of our lives, that stage, the only medical suggestion or help that I was really offered was to be on hormonal birth control. And this is what I did for several years. It hid the problems for a few months at a time, but it often caused a lot of other problems for me, or a lot of other uncomfortable symptoms and things for me to experience. So I didn't love it. It wasn't the best option for me personally. And I just felt like it was always causing other problems. In fact, there was probably a 5 or 6 year period where I was changing my birth control options every 3 to 6 months because they just weren't working well for me. They were either causing, really deep depression, or I was just always hungry. And so my weight was gaining, or I noticed that my anxiety was peaking with some, or my mood swings would change, or, some would clear up my acne, others would cause it or make it worse. We just really couldn't find the right balance for me. And one thing, I kept being told was, this is normal. You're quite young. When you get older, this will all stabilize. And I kept repeating back to them, I don't feel normal. And nothing in my body at that time felt normal. And it really didn't feel good. So it was probably another 12 years or so from that time where I actually started to get answers and validation for what was going on. And it was another 2.5 years after that journey started where I actually finally got all of my answers, where I really understood what was happening in my body. We had diagnoses in place. We had better understandings of what was happening internally for me, and what my cycle was actually doing every month for me to better understand what was happening. So, but the thing is by the time we actually got there, by the time I had all these answers, I had pretty much already figured it out for myself. I had been all over the internet, all over the studies and the research, and reading tons of books from fertility experts and women's hormones experts, and all kinds of different literature that I could get my hands on in order to better understand what was happening. And I was really glad that I did, because it allowed me to prepare myself for the the options that I would be presented with in order to help manage or treat what I was dealing with. And so I really felt that by the time we hit that stage of my journey, that I was better prepared to make an educated decision instead of going or making a decision based off of fear or the unknown, or just doing what I was recommended, or what somebody else thought was best for me, even though in the past that had been what I'd done. It didn't feel right for me at that time. So let's have a look at, so that's sort of like my journey, right? So let's have a look at what some of these signs and symptoms could be that could indicate to you that you're dealing with a hormonal imbalance. So things like constant cyclical headaches or migraines, that's one that a lot of us tend to experience, particularly around our menstrual cycles. I know that that's something that I used to get quite often, and I used to spend, I remember, a lot of time in the hospitals on IV drips because of the severity of my migraines. I would go days and days without sleeping, and I was in so much pain that I was throwing up, and it was really, really awful. But some other things would be things like water retention and bloating. Now, keep in mind that some of these might overlap with other issues that are going on in the body, which is why it's important to notice or to understand that, these aren't going to be the end all diagnoses options for you, but they're going to at least tell you that, what, I need to look further into this. This might be my normal because this is what I've lived, but it's not necessarily normal or healthy for my body. So, it allows you that empowerment to go and seek out support in that process. So other things would be like gaining weight in the lower half of your body, and including your mid region, like your mid torso region, ovarian cysts and fibroids. I mean, that one's a really big given. Oily hair and skin, as well as acne. PCOS, endometriosis, those are really big ones. Infertility, of course, is a really big one as well. So if you're already struggling with infertility, then, that's a pretty good indicator that you could be dealing with some hormonal imbalances. And if you're on a fertility journey, make sure that you are working with, a handful of practitioners who can help support that process for you. But other things like tender and painful breasts, that's a really common one that we get sort of like in that week before our period, that a lot of us, it's been our normal, so we assume that it's normal, but there are actually ways to help mitigate some of those symptoms as well. Hair loss or brittle hair or thinning hair. So if you notice there's been a change in your hair texture, or quality of your hair, then that's something to be mindful of. UTIs are another one as well. Random mood swings or extreme PMS. You shouldn't be, flipping the switch every month where you go from totally happy to totally angry, or emotional or anything. That's definitely a little bit on the extreme side of things. Really heavy flows during your period or very painful periods, as well as painful cramping during your whole monthly cycle or before your period. Irregular periods and or spotting is another very common one. And then even things like anxiety and depression can be linked to some hormonal imbalances in the body. So these are just some, an umbrella approach to you understanding that there could be something in your body that's going on that needs attention. So if this is you right now and you're sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, okay, like I'm a little bit nervous now because you've definitely highlighted some of the things that I'm dealing with that I'm really uncomfortable with or about. And so here's what you're going to want to do. Okay. So once you've identified that something isn't feeling right for you, your next step is to actually start documenting it. You're going to want to keep a journal of everything that you're experiencing. So you could either use, like a little pen and paper notepad from the dollar store. You could also go ahead and download yourself a period tracking app for your phone. And what you're going to want to do is, and this is quite extensive, but it's necessary. All right. You're going to want to start tracking food, mood, poop, and period. So everything that you're eating, how you're feeling, how your bowel movements are, and everything about your period. So not just your period itself, but every day in between, what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, what you're noticing with your body, what your moods are like. And what's going to happen here is we're going to be tracking things like the severity of these symptoms, when they're happening, identify any patterns. And this is going to allow you to be more in tune with your body. You're going to start to notice those cycles. But also, you'll be able to take this journal with you to your medical team to help them better understand what you're experiencing and what you're dealing with. And by doing that, you'll actually be able to help your doctors seek out the appropriate tests to verify what's happening. Generally, if you just went to your doctor and you said, I'm worried that I have a hormonal imbalance, they're going to ask you why you think that. And you might say, oh, I have painful periods and I have a lot of, I'm gaining a lot of weight. Well, that doesn't give them a whole lot of information about what's happening. They're not knowing when in your cycle, you could be gaining weight, when that weight gain started, how much weight you've gained. They don't know when your periods became very painful. What's the severity of that pain? Is it like 10 out of 10 knocks you out, you're throwing up and you're passing out? Or is it, 3 out of 10 where you can take a Tylenol or a Midol and then you can function for your day? So tracking these types of things allows your doctor to understand that you are noticing significant changes in your body or something significantly uncomfortable that requires attention. And it allows them to also identify those patterns because they, even just your general practitioner has a pretty good understanding of how our menstrual cycles work and are able to sort of identify that, if you're dealing with certain specific symptoms, that could be related to a specific hormone during your menstrual cycle. So they'll be able to better identify what tests to run. So for example, if you had just gone and said, I have painful periods, I have fatigue, and I have weight gain, they might say, okay, well, let's just test your thyroid and your B12 and your iron. And that's it. But if you went in and you were tracking all of these symptoms, the frequency and the severity of them, then they might say, you know what, we better run a full blood work panel, including testing all of your estrogens, your progesterone, your testosterone, your DHEA, and all of your other menstrual cycle hormones that tie into that. And when they do that, depending on what day of your cycle that you're at, that will indicate to them where to go next from there. So it's really important that you are tracking this information. And I would say track for a minimum of 3 months. 3 to 6 months of tracking should give you personally a really great understanding of what's happening in your body, but also helps your medical team have a much better understanding, especially if you're going to, be working with various practitioners. So, functional practitioners, naturopaths, doctor, like your GP, gynecologist, like they all specialize in different areas and they would all read that information differently based on their specialties. So, having that full picture of what's happening can really help your practitioners give you the right options. And that actually brings us to our next point. The next thing you're going to want to do is to know all of your options. So everybody's treatment and management protocols are going to look different, but you should know that there are effective ways for you to naturally support your hormones as well. And this can often be a really great place for you to start because it can be non-invasive, and it allows you to, eliminate or at least narrow down the list of symptoms that you're dealing with. So, for example, if you first approach your practitioners and you have a list of 10 things, 10 symptoms that are just awful for you, you hate dealing with them, then you could take medications or have procedures done that could treat all 10 of them, right? But what if instead you decided, okay, well, maybe I'll start with the non-invasive way. Let's see what we can do. Because sometimes a lot of those symptoms might be related to nutritional deficiencies or things that can easily be corrected through lifestyle, right? So if you took the non-invasive approach first and you were able to narrow that list from 10 to 5, then when we get to this point where you just can't manage those 5, or you can't seem to figure out why, then when you do go to seek out treatment or support, now you're actually only, dealing with those 5. You're treating those 5, you're managing those 5. And so it's a much less invasive option for you. And regardless of which direction you choose, whether you choose to go all natural, whether you choose to go natural first and then medical, whether you choose to do a combination of the two, it's what's important is that it works for you, and that you at least know all of your options and you understand how those would play out for you and your lifestyle. So neither approach is right or wrong, but it's really based on what's important to you and how can you commit to that. So by the time, if you are going the natural route and then moving into your medical treatment, then at least you're now dealing with a much smaller list of symptoms. So treating and managing becomes a little bit easier. Maybe it's just about adjusting doses of medications, or reducing how many medications you're taking, or maybe you've eliminated the need for certain procedures to be done, right? So it's important, in order to know all of your questions, it's important to know what you're dealing with. So once you've got those symptoms, once you've been tracking them, you've been working with different practitioners or your medical team in order to identify and really get a good understanding of what's happening in your body, then you can start asking questions. What are your treatment options? What does treatment look like? What does management look like? If you wanted to self-manage in a more natural way, what practitioners do you need to seek out in order to support that process? What are the side effects? What are the risks of certain medications or procedures that you're identifying? What are the risks of taking the natural route, right? So ask these questions, because these are going to be really important to help you create or make an educated decision around your health. And visiting different practitioners can be really helpful in order for you to get that umbrella or fully holistic support system for you. Okay. And then be open to making changes in your life that could improve that situation. So just to wrap all this up, we covered the signs and symptoms that you may have in a hormonal imbalance. And then the 2 steps that you're going to want to do is make sure that you are tracking all of that information, and then that you do know all of your options available for you. So if you found this video helpful for you today, I would like to invite you to the masterclass that I'm hosting next Tuesday night, which is September the 20th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a free 1-hour masterclass where I'm going to be sharing some of the simple secrets to balancing your hormones naturally through diet and lifestyle. So if you would like to participate in that, go ahead and just leave a comment below, and I can send you the information, the link to register or to join. And if you can't join us live, I'd be happy to send you the recording as well. And if you are catching this video after September 20th, still let me know, because I can send you the recording to this masterclass, and it can really just help you better understand how your lifestyle can really influence what's happening in the body. So have yourselves all a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to catch you another day. Bye.